Okay, so let's get right into it. We're going to break down a study system that's been making some serious waves on Reddit. It's called the 260 Plus Step 2 Blueprint. It's a pretty bold claim, saying it's a smarter way to prep for one of the toughest exams out there. So, is there something to it? Let's find out.
If you're anywhere near med school, this question probably hits you right where you live. I mean, Step 2 is just this massive mountain of information, and it's so easy to feel like you're completely lost. This whole blueprint, well, it was basically created to solve that exact feeling of being overwhelmed.
And here's the promise, right? This is the before and after picture it paints. On the left, you've got what feels like the default setting for so many students, that 3 a.m. Reddit spiral, juggling a million resources, and your practice scores just not moving. And on the right, that's the goal. Walking into the exam calm, finishing with time on the clock, and seeing that incredible 260-plus score pop up.
So, to really get it, we first have to talk about the problem this whole system is trying to fix. The source calls it the Step 2 struggle. And honestly, it's a perfect name for the vicious cycle that so many people find themselves trapped in.
Do any of these sound familiar? I mean, really familiar. Spending weeks, maybe months, watching videos, but your scores don't go up. Getting absolutely destroyed by those next best step questions. That horrible sinking feeling when you check your NBME score and it hasn't moved an inch. Yeah, this system is built from the ground up to tackle these specific frustrations head on.
But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just about what you're feeling. The blueprint actually argues that a lot of the standard advice, the stuff everyone tells you to do, it might actually be flawed. It claims that some of the most popular strategies could be the very things holding you back.
All right, first up on the chopping block, the idea that you should just passively watch hours and hours of video lectures from big names like Boards and Beyond or OnlineMedEd.
And the feedback here is, well, it's pretty brutal. According to a super high scorer that the source quotes, they felt like they wasted 2 whole months on these videos. Why? Because they say the videos just don't have the right context for the exam. The main idea here is that just watching something doesn't prepare you to actually solve problems under pressure.
Okay, next target, the classic approach, trying to memorize the entire first aid textbook for Step 2. And again, no punches are pulled. It's straight up called a waste of time. The argument from multiple high scores is that the book just isn't organized well for Step 2, and, this is a big one, it apparently misses the mark on huge topics like quality improvement and ethics that are definitely on the test.
Now this next one, this is probably the most controversial claim of the whole system. It directly challenges the idea that you should only be using UWorld. And for most med students, UWorld is basically the holy grail, right?
Now, let's be super clear. The point isn't that UWorld is bad. Not at all. The argument is that it's incomplete. This quote gets right to the heart of it. Someone who did great still felt like they got crushed on test day by stuff like vaccine schedules and screening guidelines that they just hadn't seen enough of in UWorld. It leaves you with these dangerous blind spots.
So, if the old way is broken, what's the new way? This brings us to the actual philosophy of the blueprint. After tearing down what supposedly doesn't work, the source lays out what it calls the aha moments. These are the big insights from students who absolutely crushed the exam. And here they are. These are the core principles. And they're pretty bold, right? UWorld isn't enough. There's this secret weapon called CMS forms. And get this, they say that mastering the logic of next best step questions is like 80% of the battle. It's a totally different way of looking at the exam.
And if you need a number to really drive that UWorld point home, here it is, 25%. The blueprint claims that a full quarter of the exam covers stuff that UWorld either misses or just doesn't cover well enough. Things like ethics, vaccines, patient safety. That's a huge chunk of points to leave on the table.
Okay, so what is this secret weapon they keep talking about? CMS forms. It stands for Clinical Mastery Series. Basically, these are practice questions written by the actual test makers, the NBME. The blueprint argues that doing these is the single best way to learn how to think like they do, to get into their specific, no-tricks style of asking questions.
All right, so we've got the philosophy. Now let's get into the practice. Because the argument is that it's not just about the resources you use, it's about the skills you build. And it all boils down to 5 essential skills that the top scorers apparently have mastered.
So here are the 5 non-negotiables. First, NBME-style thinking, learning how the test makers think so you don't overthink things. Second, resource triaging, being ruthless about focusing only on what matters. Third, mastering the algorithm for those next best step questions. Fourth is a high-yield topic blitz to plug all those gaps UWorld leaves. And last, the mistake autopsy, a super deep dive into every single question you get wrong.
Okay, so you have the philosophy.
You have the skills. How does it all fit together into a plan you can actually follow? Well, the blueprint lays it all out in a very clear 5-phase roadmap that's designed to take you from day 1 all the way to test day. And here's what that road looks like from 30,000 feet. It's a 17-plus week plan. You start with a big 2-month foundation phase. Then you move on to filling in those high-yield knowledge gaps. After that, it's a full month dedicated to getting the NBME mindset down. Then a final intense cram week. And finally, a clear strategy for the exam week itself.
Let's just quickly break this down. Phase 1 is all about building that core knowledge base with UWorld. But then, Phase 2 is specifically for plugging the holes that UWorld leaves using a different question bank. Phase 3 is where you really learn to think like the test maker by doing all those CMS forms. Phase 4 is a laser-focused cram on just the absolute must-knows. And finally, Phase 5 is all about walking in and executing your plan with confidence.
So we'll end with the question that this entire blueprint really forces you to ask yourself. Is the secret to that score you want really about putting in more hours, about studying harder? Or, just maybe, is it about finding a system and a strategy that lets you study smarter?